Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James. Fountain pens are the game. Today we're going to look at this bad boy. It is the Earl, an Instawrite fountain pen from VSign. VSign has sent me a few different pens and totally complimentary, so that's all up front so that I can share with you what I like and what I don't like. And the fact that they sent them does not change what I like and what I don't like. I'm going to tell you one way or the other how it goes with this pen. We're going to look at its design, which as you can see is all metal. We're going to look at whether or not it has a converter, and if it does, do I like that converter? We're going to look at its nib. Does it write well? Does it put ink to paper the way that we think that it should? And is it a good writing pen straight out of the box? All that and more as we spin that camera and take a closer look at this pen. All right, first we have the VSign in its cardboard box, just nice and simple. You do also find all the information here on the back about the pen. I'm going to try and hold that still. Some of you might need this. If you're in the US, write VSign at this email because you will need to contact them about the shipping. When you open up the box, you find, of course, the pen and nothing but the pen. And as I mentioned, it does have this really cool woven metal pattern on the cap and the barrel. I think that looks good. It feels good. It doesn't feel rough or badly done. It feels like it was done well, and it gives you kind of a nice grippy texture on that pen. As far as the design of the pen, kind of a classic style. I've seen this shape before on other pens with different variations, but you have, of course, a glossy polished finial coming down to a gold tone trim, which also runs down that clip. Nice big bow there, fit over a lot of material or pen loop material. Nice and springy, not overly stiff, but plenty good to hold your pen in place. Then VSign laser etched on that gold tone trim band in the middle. Pen then tapers down, kind of like a cross type pen here at the shape, but not exactly like a cross, but that's kind of just the pen that comes to mind. And then gold tone trim again here at the end of the barrel. Makes for a good look overall. The cap is just a slip cap. It does post and posts securely. No issue there. It's not a very heavy pen, so the balance is quite good. No issues there either. It's a little bit of a step down here at that trim band, but not bad. And then a somewhat narrow grip section. So if you don't like metal grip sections, then probably you're not going to like this one either. There's a little bit of slip from the metal, but those grooves do help tone that down a bit. If you've ever used a Zizo pen, they're kind of different parts of the market and certainly different materials. The Zizo pen is more upscale than this, but the grip section is very similar to the Zizo. So that might give you, if you have experience with those, a little bit of what that grip feels like. All right, while we're at that grip section, how about we look at the nib? That nib is a two-tone steel nib. I don't know if it's 5, but it's 5-ish, and appears to have been made by Bina. Of course, VSign and Bina, they are tied together, so that makes a lot of sense. Does have a typical plastic feed. You can see a little bit of ink there. I had to go back and refilm this section after the writing test because the first time I filmed about the nib just disappeared into the ether, or I guess this would be the inter-ether. I don't know how that works. Anyway, you do see that nib has plenty of tipping material for a medium nib. And since now I've already done the writing test, that nib is a good one. It writes very smoothly and makes a terrific first impression when you put it to paper. Now when you open up the pen, you will find a converter. It is a slide converter, which since I've already inked the pen, I am not going to demonstrate for you, but there is the metal agitator spring inside, and it worked just fine. Those who know me well know these are not my favorite, but the ones I've gotten from VSign so far are working just fine, so not really that big a deal. It does have a little less capacity than some international shorts and certainly than an international long, and a little bit less than a standard twist piston converter, but you can swap that out because this is an international cartridge compatible pen. You do also notice we have there good metal on metal threads. Now looking inside the cap, you do see a couple of things. One is you could see that pattern kind of extends to the very edge of the cap metal, so you will be able to feel that. I don't feel anything sharp. Good thing, I might have cut my finger. There's nothing there really bad. You can see down inside that there is a plastic liner. Now I have not done
a long-term dry out test on this pen, I would be interested to know if you have this pen, whether or not you've had good or bad luck with that. I'll test that over time, of course. All right, for size comparisons, we of course have the Earl from V-Sign. Then, how about a Jinhao 51A in that coffee resin? That one with a bobby nib. And then a Fountain Pen Revolution Guru. One thing I like about this pen, just a little aside, very easy to take apart and maintain. And I like that about the Guru. And then the Lamy All-Star in that petrol blue. Unposted, it is kind of in the middle of this lineup. The Jinhao 51A, definitely the longer pen. The Guru, of course, the shortest of these four. And then the All-Star, pretty much a known quantity for most people. And then lined up end to end, although it doesn't look like it down here, but I promise you it is, you can see a real dramatic difference between the All-Star, the V-Sign, and then those other two pens. Really nice balance in hand, I'll tell you that. Thinner than I like in terms of the grip, but not bad at all, and it's not slippery like you might think it would be. Under some conditions, more humid weather maybe, it would be. Very nice. It says a medium nib, steel. Ink today is Pelican, as you can kind of see there to the side. And this is turquoise. This is a new bottle for me. I don't know why I have not bought this ink sooner. I really like blues like this in general. This has nice shading. It's Pelican. It's going to be good, I'm sure. The only Pelican ink I've ever gotten that I didn't like was the Brilliant Red, and that's just because it's so watered down. This I like. Very nice. This is a nice nib. India is one part of the world I've never had the privilege to go to, but I really kind of always wanted to. For the sights, the sounds, the culture, the food, of course. I'd love to do that. Now how about our little speed test? All right, we'll see how this pen does. Just writing very quickly. I'm just going to do nonsense scribble so I don't have to worry about handwriting because it would be bad if I wrote that fast anyway, right? All right, let's try this. It is in real time. I managed to not really do any lifts. I had a little bit of a turn right there, but pen did great. Ink kept up just fine. And in my quick little tests, first impression tests of writing, I've done a dip test. I did a little bit of similar to here in another setting. And with all of it, the pen has written really well. Smooth, not a lot of feedback. It's a really well ground nib. And I love it when you get a pen that's fairly inexpensive and yet the nib is really well ground. And that's certainly the case with this medium nib. And it was with the other V-Sign that I've already reviewed as well. So that's a good sign for the two pens I have left to test, right? Anyway, this one, well made. I think in its price range, it is a well-made pen. It is not a high-end pen, so set your expectations accordingly. Kind of reminds me of a thicker version in terms of this finish and things like that. The feel of the pen reminds me of a cross pen, those kind of classic cross gift pens, but blown up in size a little bit because those are really, really thin. This is more the feel of, say, a cross century, but maybe a little bit. It may be my imagination, but it seems just a little bit lighter. But yeah, it's writing well, and it's very well balanced in hand and easy to write with, and it makes a good first impression. So if you're in a market where V-Sign pens are easily accessible, I would check this one out. If you're in a market where they're not as accessible, contact V-Sign, and they said they will do what they can to accommodate you. I don't know what all that will involve. I have no idea, but it's probably worth reaching out to them, and that information is earlier in the video and in the description below. All right, so first impression, good impression. But what do you think? Do you have a V-Sign?
Earl, can you give us some long-term experience about this pen? Share those remarks in the comments below. And on your way down to those comments, just take a little sideline and make sure that you got that bell dinged and you've got that subscribe button clicked. And with all of that, thank you very much. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.